Breaking news from Blacksburg, Virginia, as Virginia Tech has found their new head coach in Penn State's James Franklin. I'm Carson Baird. Was not expecting to be recording another reaction video this week, but we got to cover this news. You're watching Footballers Anonymous. Let's go ahead and roll your intro. What's going on, Footballer Nation? Thank you for joining us today on Footballers Anonymous, the greatest rising podcast in football, as we bring you a Carson's College Knowledge special with a reaction to the hiring of Virginia Tech's new head coach in James Franklin. Let's talk about it because a lot of people think that my opinions are somewhat controversial on Franklin. So let's go ahead and break down what's going on. It was announced today. James Franklin was hired as Virginia Tech's head coach. This will be officially announced on Wednesday at his introduction. I will be attending and will make sure to bring you coverage on that. What a move for Virginia Tech, okay? Obviously, I'm a little disappointed because I was really excited to take a gamble on someone like Bob Chesney, but when it comes down to it, you can't go wrong with someone who, let's be real, about a year ago would have been considered a top 10 coach, who very well still could be. Obviously, he led Penn State to the semifinals last year. We don't know a whole ton about James Franklin's contract, but what we do know is that before this, he was owed $49 million from his buyout at Penn State that would go through about 2031. Of course, now with most of that being covered by Virginia Tech's salary that they will be paying him, I would estimate probably around 10 to 11 million over a year for the next 4 years, if I had to guess. Because of that, rather than just waiting for that to happen, they went ahead and negotiated his buyout down to $9 million. So that's very good for Penn State fans. And I think it's a pretty solid contract for Virginia Tech, getting a coach of such caliber for $10 million a year. Virginia Tech is, of course, investing an extra $229 million into athletics for the next 4 years. That is crucial. We're going to see a lot of use come out of James Franklin for that because, I mean, he's a program builder. He's going to recruit like crazy. One of the things that was so appealing about James Franklin that was also very appealing about Frank Beamer when we first recruited him is that they people like that recruit the state of Virginia. James Franklin at Penn State was out recruiting the state of Virginia against Virginia Tech. They were getting all the best prospects. Virginia is a surprisingly great state for recruits. You've got Penn State, obviously, dominating that market. I know South Carolina also did a lot of recruiting in Virginia. Ohio State, they're a good Virginia school. But Virginia Tech, UVA, and schools like that were just getting outbid. Having James Franklin is absolutely huge. We've already seen a huge number of decommits from Penn State ever since James Franklin got fired because, of course, he recruited most of them there. I'm very interested to see how many of those commits do end up following Franklin to Blacksburg and how many of them end up going somewhere else. Now, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. The biggest concern with James Franklin is, of course, his record against top 10 schools. James Franklin has an astounding 4-21 record against top 10 teams. That is, of course, not good and not something you want to see out of a coach who's attempting to win a natty in Blacksburg, as he said not too long ago. Fun little facts there. Frank Beamer, Virginia Tech legend, was 2-21 against top 10 teams. A big part of why I'm maybe not as confident in Frank Beamer as a top 10 coach as a lot of Virginia Tech fans are. Will this be an issue for James Franklin? Honestly, I kind of thought it was, but really looking at it right now, I mean, there are no top 10 teams in the ACC right now. He, in theory, would not have to play a single top 10 team through the regular season. Postseason may be a different story, though. But obviously, Virginia Tech right now, before they can even worry about the postseason, they need to start getting winning records again. And James Franklin is frankly a coach who can get you that. He's a consistent 8-10 win coach. He turned Vandy into a winning program. He turned Penn State into a winning program. I would not be surprised at all over really the next year or two if he turns Virginia Tech into an ACC contender year in and year out. So that is very exciting for Blacksburg. Overall, James Franklin, I think it's a pretty good move. Of course, again, I was disappointed because I was very excited to hire a guy like Bob Chesney. I was loving what Bob Chesney was doing at JMU, so I had a more negative reaction when we ended up hiring Franklin. But frankly, it's a good move overall. I think this is what Virginia Tech needs to become nationally relevant again. I wouldn't expect any real playoff contention for a long time, which is again one of the things that I do regret with this situation. But overall, I think James Franklin is a good move for Blacksburg. I think he's going to build a culture and build a real program there, just like Frank Beamer did. And yeah, Blacksburg, you're in for a ride, hopefully, with James Franklin. It's going to be a fun one. I can't wait to see what happens. But with that, to hear more about James Franklin and to hear the rest of our college knowledge and college analysis, as well as our NFL and all football takes, make sure to watch the regular episode coming out later this week on NFL Week 11. Make sure to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, where we only post mini memes. We're so close to our 100 on TikTok. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us for a special presentation of Carson's College Knowledge. I'll be making sure to keep you updated on the James Franklin situation all week as more details arise. But with that, I will see you later in this week. Footballer Nation, let's ride.